Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
Good morning and welcome to For the Record. Today being Monday, the 22nd of August, 2016. I trust that you had a great weekend. You can tell that mine wasn't probably all that great. I don't even know what did. Today is. I had a good weekend. Weather was good. No rain. Beautiful cycling weather if you got out there early in the morning as well. Today, another beautiful day. And if you're on the roads, if you're at home, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman and by extension For the Record into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or otherwise. For the Record, of course, is a show produced by the staff and management of Radio Cayman, and it is geared towards keeping you abreast of issues as they arise and play out on the local, regional, and international scene. I am your host, Orit Connor, and you're welcome to join me every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, from 7:30 a.m. until 9:30 a.m. Our phone lines are always open. There is always someone there waiting to take your calls. Normally, it is that beautiful voice of Miss Susan Watson. You can call us on our toll-free number provided courtesy of Flo. That toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. You can also call us on 949-8037 and 949-6990. And of course, if you don't like to talk on the telephone, you can email us at For the Record. That is one word, For the Record, at candw.ky. Of course, For the Record would not be possible without the support of our loyal sponsors. For the Record is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance Company Limited. Tomorrow secured. Call them at 949-9744 or visit them in Alista Towers. Seaboard Marine with 35 shipping routes, including from Houston, New York, Miami, and Jamaica. Visit seaboardmarine.com for shipping schedules and more. Seaboard Marine, shipping shore to shore. Fidelity Bank, for all your banking and pension needs, call or visit a Fidelity branch today. What's been happening on the international scene? We see the Olympics are now over. For those of you who watched the closing ceremonies last night, the next Olympics to be held, Summer Olympics to be held in 4 years' time, will be held in Tokyo, Japan. And we saw the handover ceremonies as well. And despite all of the doom and gloom that was preached about the Olympics in Rio, and I would venture to say a lot of that was spread by those countries that were still, or organizations that were still upset over the fact that Rio got the Olympics. All of that doom and gloom did not actually occur. Yes, they had their problems, and which country hosting the Olympics would not have their problems. But everything went well. Of course, Jamaica's and the Caribbean's Usain Bolt and the rest of the Jamaican track team did us all proud as well. And we should all in the Caribbean rejoice and hold them up, as our heroes, our sporting heroes as well. Those of you who spent the last 2 weeks watching the Olympics, you may now have to find something else to do, readjust your schedules. I know I will readjust mine because I found myself sitting on the couch a little bit too much, and maybe that is why I ended up with that muscle pull in my back from sitting too much on the couch as well. So we now have to adjust our schedules, and we will have to do something else. And hopefully, whatever you do, it will be productive. It will be done to either advance your fellow human being or your communities as well, especially for those of you who are retired. Don't just sit in the house. Get out there and do something. Get involved. Today being Monday, we expect to have in our studio this morning with us the Honorable Wayne Panton, Minister responsible for Financial Services, Commerce, and the Environment. We're scheduled to have him in. We're also going to have in, as I promised on Friday, the Supervisor of Elections. Later on during the show, we're going to have the Supervisor of Elections and his team on as well to talk about their house-to-house survey that they will be doing, making contact with you. And we hope that everyone listens and everyone cooperates with them during their campaign as well. What's happening on the local scene also, we see that we now have new Commissioner of Police named, and he will be joining taking over as the Commissioner of the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service in November of this year, and his name is Mr. Derek Patrick Byrne. He's a 36-year veteran of the police service. Of course, appointments do not necessarily come without some controversy. The controversy surrounding this one is the governor's refusal to release the names of all of the applicants or even the shortlisted applicants for the post as well. And the governor's office has expressed their concerns in relation to releasing those names. I believe that the release of the names add more transparency to the whole process, because what it does, it allows the public, and these days with internet and everything else, you can Google, you can go on there, you can see, if people have Facebook accounts, you can see what they've posted wherever, and you get an idea of what their thinking is. And if those names were released, we would be able to go on their research and see what their experiences are, and to be able to critique as to whether or not we believe that, based on the applicants and what we see about them, not having the benefit of having a face-to-face interview with them, but based on what we see about them, whether or not the choice was a correct choice. We don't want to wait 2.5 years, 2 years, 3 years down the line and find out that it was the wrong choice. Not that we could do anything about it anyway, because that decision is left in the hands of the governor and a panel that was constituted to make that selection. But be that as it may, what we here at Radio Cayman and For the Record want to do is, when the commissioner comes, we want to wish him all the best. We hope that he will be successful in his endeavors, and he's probably not listening and won't hear this, but we will repeat it somewhere along the way. Take time and listen to the public. Caymanians talk a lot, and you have to sometimes decipher what it is that they're saying, but listen, take time and listen, and not only listen, but consider what they have to say. I'm told that we have 2 callers. Let's go to the phone lines. First caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, O.C. How are you today?
I'm fine. Morning. And yourself?
Yeah, thankful. I just want to give up my condolences to Mr. Shirley Ebanks' family that passed away on the weekend. He was a very, very good friend of mine, and that's another good Caymanian that is going on, but God is in control and in charge of everything. Also, election is how many months now are we up, Mr. Connor?
Well, it is in May of next year. We're in August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May. 9 months away. I count on my fingers to get that.
Right, and I notice, and I'm hearing a lot of dead horses coming to life again since the time is getting close. I'm wondering again, like I heard one young politician said 3.5 years. We never heard nothing about them, but now them old horses is coming to life again, and they look like they're going to get saddles on them and they're going to be ridden. So I'm just listening to the radio stations now and hearing them all come on. I wish I had Mr. Mark Field on this morning. I would enjoy the show better. But
he'll be on Wednesday. You know, we have to have a variety. You know, we got good conversations from government side of things also. Minister Patton always has, you know, very important things to say, and there's certainly clarity when he comes across whatever he's saying, and it comes across. There's such clarity into it, but we have to have that balance. We'll have Mr. Macfield on Wednesday.
Yeah, what happened to Mr. Saunders? You know, I'll get him back with you.
Yeah, we will at some point in time as well. But as you know, things are constantly moving on For the Record. We change our format all the time. Mr. Macfield happened to be on Wednesdays now because he was invited by the two independent members of two of the independent members of our legislature, Mr. Miller and Mr. McLean, and they made an open mic invitation for him to join them on Wednesdays, and in particular to discuss the recommendations made by the constitutional commissioners in relation to changes to our constitution. And as a result of that, they have been on there. So that is why. But at some point in time, I'm sure Mr. Saunders will be on as well.
Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much, caller. Let's see if we can take the other caller before we go to the commercial break. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC number one from the Brack.
Morning, number one. How are you?
Trying to live well or dying.
How are things in the Brack?
If I knew, I would tell you because I'm locked in.
Oh, okay.
I don't have no transport, nothing like that, but I just watch the trucks go by. Listen, I want to say two things. First of all, take this number from me and write it down, please.
Okay, go right ahead. Got my pen and paper ready.
948 0268.
9480268.
Yeah, or 939 05 92.
Okay.
And you tell Mr. Panton, number one, say he wants to speak to him with a capital S.
Okay. Suppose he doesn't have any credit on his phone.
Well, tell him use the government phone. They have enough credit.
Okay. Yep.
Wait now, and I finish.
Okay, go right ahead.
What I call you about, I am one person that said we must never sell our airline, okay? Don't get rid of it. But I think they're pushing that airline, the planes, they have too much. They start with another route again. They're going to push in Cayman Airways too far.
When you say you're talking about the capacity of the planes, or are you talking about expanding our services that we won't be able to handle them, all of them?
They're expanding and putting too much pressure on those planes.
Well, you notice that you don't get anywhere with the planes when they're on the ground. You know, they're designed to fly, not to be on the ground.
You're not talking to a dunce here. But what I'm saying, you must remember, even if it's your car, you got to put oil to, you know.
Yeah. But they're well maintained, and then remember now we're getting a new fleet of aircraft as well, right?
Well, wait till they come before you start expanding.
Okay.
I said these planes are doing too much. They're run up and down too many places that I'm hearing about on the radio where they can go this and that. And I said they're putting too much pressure on those planes.
Got you.
Next thing you're going through here, oh, to hell with Cayman back. We're not sending her there.
No, that won't happen, and we know you won't let that happen as well. You won't allow that to happen.
The day that happens, Akiva, I think going to have problems.
Okay.
All right, sir.
Thank you, number one. You have a great day.
Have a good day.
Thank you very much, folks. I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I am your host, Stuart Connor. And when we come back from this commercial break, I will introduce our guest to you this morning. So please stay tuned. For the Record will be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm your host, Stuart Connor, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you my guest this morning, none other than Minister Wayne Panton who has constitutional responsibility for financial services, commerce, and the environment. Minister Planton, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record, sir.
Good morning, OC, and always a pleasure to be here with you and your listeners. And let me say good morning to all of our residents and citizens in our wonderful Cayman Islands.
The last time that you were scheduled on the show, we were going to talk about intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, and things like that. You weren't here, but Mr. Donna Dixon, did an excellent job that day, with that. But there's so many other things that have come to the fore, since then. The Brexit vote had taken place at that point in time. Also, we're seeing in the news, for instance, where some of the predictions that were made, and it's still early to tell, but some of the predictions that were made in terms of the downside of the Brexit situation actually has not materialized.
Well, I think for the UK, some of it has. Mm-hmm. You do see clear indications of certain potential economic malaise. But it is still early, as you say, and they have not yet sort of commenced the process. I think the UK is trying to decide exactly what it is they want out of the whole thing. So still early, but there's one argument that says as well that because they haven't commenced anything, there's still there's a continuation of uncertainty.
Yes.
Which should have a negative impact in some respects. But yeah, it's in terms of the predictions, it's probably not going to be as bad as was originally predicted. But almost certainly there are going to be negative consequences.
Okay. Well,
at least in the short term.
Yep. And I'm let you continue to have the mic so that you can set your agenda in terms of what you want to talk about this morning as well, Minister.
Well, yeah. As you mentioned earlier, we agreed to that we would just have a short period this morning, and then you have the guests on from the elections office talking about the important work that's going on in relation to that. So we'll just have a sort of brief period here, but there's the most recent issue that I was certainly discussing publicly was the actual commencement of the National Conservation Law, the substantive full commencement of that, which I think is a very important, very significant milestone for the Cayman Islands. And effectively now, what we have done is place consideration of the environment at the same level as other factors, and including broadly socioeconomic factors, and aesthetics and safety issues and all that sort of stuff, where we're discussing planning or other decisions which may have an impact directly on our environment. So we've elevated those considerations, and that was the overall thrust of the National Conservation Law. In addition to bringing together under one piece of legislation all of the important work that's being done in relation to marine conservation. I think most people will recall that the effect now of commencing the full National Conservation Law is that the Marine Conservation Law itself is now repealed. So the legal framework around the marine parks is now contained within the National Conservation Law, and it's now expanded to deal with terrestrial conservation as well as marine conservation. So really happy about that. You will recall that was a matter that was under discussion for more than a decade, and so much so that there was a lot of talk about it being a conservation law rather than a conservation law. But we've gotten there. The government has delivered on its promise. It was a part of our manifesto, and I think it's a very significant accomplishment. There are certain people that feel, you have different extremes of views on these things. and you have some that feel that perhaps it's gone too far. You have some that feel that it has not gone anywhere near far enough. I am someone who feels that we're about where we should be, and of course this is what we've accomplished has been agreed. It was voted on by all of the members of the Legislative Assembly in December 2013. So I think we're where we should be in relation to this. I think that any concerns that people have in relation to the operation of the law, they'll have to wait and see whether their predictions are correct. I do not believe that's the case, but certainly if there is an issue with it operationally, and it significantly impedes efficiencies or anything, I would be one who would be supporting making changes, as I would to any other law, to improve efficiencies. But I don't believe that's the case at all. And the evidence that we have, based on ongoing interactions and work in relation to decision making in the country, which may have an impact in relation to the environment, has been excellent. There haven't been any allegations of holdups or bureaucracy around that process. So, not concerned about that really. But as I said, if there ever was to be an issue, I would be happy to have a look at it myself.
Okay. One of our listeners wants to ask if there's any consideration given to extending the consultation period for the fishing regulations. Says doing it over the summer didn't give people long enough time, and should also gone out and had meetings in the districts. Many local fishermen didn't have regular access to the internet. That they should go out into the districts to discuss it.
I think we'll see the reality is that the law prescribes a certain period of time within which you do some of these consultations, at least in relation to the fish conservation plan. The National Conservation Council actually doubled the period of time within which the consultation should occur. Unlike other aspects of the National Conservation Law, this one doesn't require there to be sort of public meetings or anything. And to be honest, if the plan was something which represented a whole range of new matters, I would have been one to say to them, go out and do public consultation meetings in each district. But those district meetings, they are those are advised, those are communicated in the same way that the consultation as it is in terms of write-in comments, that was advised in the same way, communicated in the same way. They went on radio shows and communicated it. It was in a newspaper. It was, of course, on the DOE website. It was sent out. I think they on their social media as well. So there is quite a bit of communication around it. But the reality for me is this: what the Fish Conservation Plan does or proposes to do is simply to bring together all of the existing provisions that exist in the regulations and exist in the law in terms of restrictions on taking marine life or fish, except for two things. One is there is a proposal to limit the amount of parrotfish that can be taken, so a bag limit, and secondly a size limit or a slot limit. So you can't take them below a certain size, and you can't take them beyond a certain size. Now, I don't remember the exact slot limit in terms of the size. But the reason that is proposed, and that particular bit is out for public consultation, as is the overall thing. But as I said, the overall thing, 90% of it is just consolidating what's already in the law. But the reason the the parrotfish proposal that is there, is that there have been a tremendous amount of representations made by concerned citizens, by people in the marine industry, who have said that it is very clear that that parrotfish in particular have become a significant target species. And we know that they're a very important species because they're reef grazers, and they help to keep down algae on the reef. So the desire was to get public input on a proposal. All the public have to do is write in, send your emails in, and was supposed to have finished, I think, today. But listen, it does not take a lot of time and effort to just send an email. So go ahead.
Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor. My guest with me this morning, the Honorable Wayne Pannon, Minister responsible for Financial Service, Commerce, and the Environment. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, where I have the pleasure of having in the studio with me this morning the Honorable Wayne Panton, Minister responsible for Financial Services, Commerce, and the Environment. And we're talking basically about the environment now, the National Conservation Law. While we were on our news, received some comments from our listening audience as well. One listener says, does the Minister think a law on its own can save the environment without proper enforcement? If so, when will the government put more resources in enforcement? The Marine officers asked for the right to have powers to arrest as a police officer. What success has that had in policing the environment? And then it goes on to say, it's the illegal taking that affects our marine environment. You cannot legislate morality. There is an urgent need to enforce the law.
Yeah, see, that's absolutely true. You do need to enforce the law. And we have applied additional resources to conservation. We have also, very importantly, as the caller notes, we have given the marine conservation officers the same powers of arrest and the power to carry certain equipment like not firearms but arms, handcuffs, batons, even tasers are possible. So those are new powers that they have. That is clearly something that helps significantly, because in the past they couldn't actually go and arrest people. What they would have to do is they would see them, they'd have to keep an eye on them, they'd have to call the police and have the police come and stop their regular duties and come and deal with it. And a lot of times people were gone by then, and circumstances change, and it impacts your ability to successfully prosecute and all that. So yeah, that has made a significant difference, and absolutely we do need to apply additional resources to that. But that's not the only answer. We know that we've had the marine parks in place for 30 odd years, and we've still had these declines going on. Over that period of time, our population has significantly increased. We've therefore had significant additional pressures. We've had development. We've also had, the global issues relating to climate change and warming of the seas, ocean acidification, all this sort of stuff. Of course, that leads to things like coral bleaching and all that. So you've got the environment changing, where additional stresses are being put on the reefs. The population changes has put tremendous additional pressures on the reefs. And the fish and other marine species. So we know that is those threats, those challenges are increasing, and we also know that we've had a decline from about, in relation to coral cover, we had about 80% coral cover on our reefs back in the late 70s, early 80s, I think late 70s, and now we're down to about 18% in some places. Some places a little bit less, some places a bit more. So we've had a significant decline, and that's a regional thing. Unfortunately, for the rest of the region, they've had tremendously more decline than we've had because we've done a better job with our marine parks. But we know we've had declines, and unfortunately, what we have in place is just not enough for us to have a sustainable balance. And we owe it to our children to be the best stewards of our environment, best stewards of this little rock that we live on, so that they have the opportunity, those that are very young now and those that are yet unborn, have the opportunity to enjoy a part of what makes Cayman Cayman, and what made our lives and our growing up so special.
Exactly. We have one caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Thank you for taking my call. Good morning, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, Minister Panton.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Hope you're well.
Good. I'm doing very well. Considering the circumstances, still I rise. Thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, I have not called in this morning to debate or argue with the minister. That's not my job. I'm not doing that this morning. I don't get paid to do that, and I'm not volunteered to do that. Why I have called, though, is I've received as you know, I live in Cayman Brac, and I've received quite a few calls from Brackers who are resident of Grand Cayman wanting to know how to sign this petition that's circulated on Cayman Brac only. It's not available online, the fishing conservation plan. So just to let your listening public know that any Bracker living in Grand Cayman and any Grand Caymanian in Grand Cayman who wants to sign this petition that's initiated on Cayman Brac, I will be in Grand Cayman at 7:30 tonight at Café del Sol, which is located adjacent to Simboca, where the old cinema used to be. You can come out at about 7:30 and add your signature to the petition if you so desire. And I thank you, Mr. Moderator, for allowing me to get this in. And I would also like to encourage the minister and his government to build more prison rooms, because if you think you're going to stop the local Caymanian fishermen from fishing, you're going to need more rooms at prison. Thank you kindly. I'm Quincy Brown.
Quincy, before you go.
It's gone. But go ahead.
I was just going to ask him before he goes. He's talking about a petition, but what does a petition say? Is it a representation on particular views on the in response to the fish conservation plan proposals, or is it just we don't want it type of thing?
Yeah.
Because if it says we don't want it, what kind of value is that in terms of feedback? As I was saying earlier, there's two real changes to which is the 5% of the plan, which is new. The rest of it, as I said, is a consolidation of existing stuff. We started talking about the parrotfish, so that's one. There's also a proposal to limit the amount of, I think it's fries and sprats. So there's a proposal to limit the take of sprats to about, I think it's half of a 5-gallon bucket, which is more than enough for people to fish with, right? Unfortunately, and this is why these types of things end up being necessary, because the innocent suffer for the guilty, right? You have people who will go out and they'll hear about a school of sprats somewhere, and they go and they will not stop throwing their net into these sprats until until the sprats are the school of sprats is decimated, and most of the time these sprats are breeding when they're schooling that much, and their coolers are full. And what happens? Do you think they go prepared? Do you think they ice the sprats down all the time? Do you think they put rock salt down in there so that the bait is kept high quality and all that so they can go and sell it? No. Most of the time, they have it full and they catch more than they thought they were going to catch. They have their coolers full and half the sprats rotten before they can deal with them. So it's a waste of our important marine resources.
And there are people who, when they know where the sprats are, there are certain individuals that they try to keep that knowledge away from because they know exactly what they will do.
I know
people who have that reputation.
who spend a lot of time out fishing, sportsmen, they're out fishing and they're enjoying wading around on the flats and stuff, catching fish. And when they got a lot of people coming up to them, people know that they be out there all the time, so they come, hey, you see any sprats there? No, never saw no sprat in months. They might have seen a school of sprats that morning, but they're not going to tell people because they know, and it's not, there's a few Caymanians who go out and catch sprats and they're fine, but there are some people who are just, they're so greedy with it that they'll go and decimate a school of sprats, and that ruins it for everybody. Yeah. So really, half a 5-gallon bucket of sprats is more than enough sprats to catch and go fishing with. So that's part of the proposal in relation to sprats.
One more caller. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning, O.C.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good morning, Mr. Paran.
Good morning again, sir. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Catch you on a Friday, now on a Monday.
Good. But listen to me.
I hope everything is good.
Everything is fine as sifted flour.
Hi.
Good. Now listen to me. I believe in the marine park system,
Yeah.
Always has, always will. I believe in take some, leave some for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I've been preaching and pissing in the wind for years. Why are we letting people that come here on a permit fishing, visitors fishing, people, remember one time, right? When it was only X amount of people diving, cooking lobsters,
Mm-hmm.
Now I see visitors coming. They come specially during the lobster season. They will tell you that because they can catch lobster free. They don't have to pay a tag. They come and see this big the FEMA shop, the Rupert or something. I see him say he come down especially when the conch season that he can go dive his conch and prepare them specially. This is the only place in the world you can do this. The Bahamas got 700 islands. You can't do it there. We got 3 little islands with a very little bit of reef. Mr. Patton,
you're right.
Is you thinking about doing anything about that?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. You'll remember that there was a provision in the Marine Conservation Law dealing with fishing licenses. Basically, it said that if you were not Caymanian, you had to get a license to be able to fish. And the first time the Department of Environment tried to enforce that, I think it was probably 2009, 2010, somewhere around there. One of the justices, I think it was a summary court matter, one of the judges made a comment that it was unconstitutional. It was against the Bill of Rights, and sort of browbeat the prosecution into withdrawing it. And I personally think that conclusion was not correct, and I have had a number of discussions now with the Department of Environment on this issue, and I believe I'm right in thinking that under the National Conservation Law, the National Conservation Council has the ability to through regulations propose this. Obviously, Cabinet has to deal with implement the regulations or adopt the regulations. So that's an approach that I'm looking at right now, because I do believe, I think the call is right. I do believe that if it's just Caymanians, I think there's going to be less of an impact. But most Caymanians are going to be much more responsible in their approach. But there are others who do not have the same approach, and perhaps this is a novelty for them. They've never seen an environment we've successfully at least maintained something.
Yes.
And they think it's a free for all, and they can go and get what they want. We don't want that. We want to be able to restrict that. So, personally, I think a licensing approach is the best thing, and it also generates some revenue for us to do some conservation. So I thank Elvis for those comments.
Mr. Paran.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Go right ahead.
Hello. I don't want to remember no license because nobody we got all the laws we need. And no one, if you're not a Caymanian, born and bred, because we gave when I started sending, you cannot take no marine life, no crabs, no nothing. Plain and simple, it never no license. Because then you can get this special people that get license. None. Period. Simple. On the water marine parks open up, good, we can give it to now. If you're not a Caymanian, you don't take a periwinkle. Plain and simple, because you hear what Quincy say?
Periwinkles are protected too.
Listen, Mr. Paran.
Yeah.
And I want you to tell your tourist friend, your rich friend, what we doing now with this lobster season open, and a foreigner that we see with lobster and cup, we going to take them from taking them away.
Yeah.
Simple.
Thank you very much, Scholar.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't see much of that myself, but I believe I will say that I think maybe Elvis knows more than I do. He I believe he got more rich friends than I got, so maybe he sees more of it than I do. But I listen. I sympathize with those views, and I do think it needs to be significantly restricted. I mean, many places you go, if you're not a citizen or you're not a native, you have to get special licenses, or at least you're treated in a different way. I'll certainly have a discussion about whether it could be restricted to Caymanians only, but we'll see. That may be more difficult in terms of issues than it would be to impose a licensing regime, and a licensing regime in itself will help to limit and to restrict people's access.
Certainly. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Art Connor, and my guest in the studio with me this morning is the Honorable Wayne Panton, Minister responsible for financial services, commerce, and the environment. The Minister is going to be with us for another 10 or 15 minutes. We have one caller. We're going to ask that caller to hold on. Two callers, actually. As soon as we come back from this commercial break, we will accommodate their calls. Please stay tuned for the record. We'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. In the studio with me this morning, Honorable Wayne Panton, Minister with Constitutional Responsibility for Financial Services, Commerce, and the Environment. And before we go to the phone lines, Minister Panton, you did mention some concerns that were expressed by a judge in a case. And just to point out to our listening audience that certainly our Constitution and Section 18 covers the protection of the environment and does allow the government to adopt reasonable legislative and other measures to protect the heritage and wildlife and the land and sea biodiversity of the Cayman Islands, that limit pollution and ecological degradation, promote conservation and biodiversity, and secure ecologically sustainable development and use of natural resources. Right. So we have to balance that against the individual rights as well, and those individual rights are not necessarily absolute.
No, we have the notion, I think, that was taken originally was that somehow there was a right that couldn't be, you couldn't have any discrimination at all in relation to non-Caymanians. But under the Constitution, I think we do have the ability to have reasonable discrimination. I mean, we do it with immigration, right? So don't tell me we can't do it in other areas. And Section 18, as you said, it more than allows, it actually requires that the government take steps, and those are some of the ways in which it contemplates action being taken to do the important things like preserve our environment. Yeah,
let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Yeah, good morning.
Morning, sir.
Good morning.
You see, it seems in this country the laws being made to fit certain people. I look at Mr. Banton, laws always made to fit certain people. And
they're called Caymanians.
It seems those certain people is the rich people in this country, because the poor Caymanians who can't eat food, who can't even fish in their own country, they are losing their rights in this country.
Which Caymanian can't fish in their own country? You can't make wild statements like that without facts to back them up, caller.
Can I finish, please?
No, you can finish if you're going to be factual, not making wild statements.
I'm not making wild.
Yes, statements. You did make a wild statement there. You're saying that Caymanians can't fish in their own country. That is factually incorrect.
No, what I'm saying is, it is by this new law, the Caymanian people can't fish in their own country as they feel like. and it is not right. Hello?
Go ahead. We're listening.
Listening to you. Go ahead.
Yeah. But what I want to ask here, Mr. Banton, some questions as MLA. Can I ask you some questions as MLA?
Don't make it too many because the minister's going to be gone from us in another 7 minutes, and we have one more caller. So if you had three questions, you limit it to 1.5.
Number one, what you have been achieved to Bodentown district since you was being elected as a member of the House, and what you achieved to Bodentown people, because I don't see you achieve anything.
Minister?
That you finished with your questions?
Yeah, he's finished.
Well, I'm not sure what rock he came up from under all of a sudden now, but of course we know where we're getting to. Elections are coming up. He is on his campaign now. That's fine. I will be accounting to the people of Bodentown for what we have achieved, what I have achieved in relation to not just Bodentown, but the whole country. I'm not going to engage in a conversation with him this morning because it would take me another hour to go through all of that. If he has another question, I'm happy to respond, but I doubt it.
No, we're going to go to the next caller. Thank you for that. Next caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning, OC. Good morning, Mr. Patton.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, when I listen to Elvis as they're talking about, how, and this is truth, this is factual. I've seen it. That a lot of these rich people that live right by the sea on the beach and stuff like that, they go out there and they go out and sometimes they go out at night and they take lobster and stuff like that, and nobody knows about it. It's a poor little guy that's trying to feed his family that gets caught all the time along the beach trying to, I know some of those guys get a little bit too greedy and take more than they need, but I don't know whether they're trying to sell, where to get it to sell or what it is. But, in the United States of America, they have the Eskimos have a right. They were like the original settlers there, and they have a right to fish for whales because that's part of their tradition. And so I don't know why it is that we can't have Caymanians who will carry an identification of some sort saying that you're legally have the right to fish, but you can't catch more than so much because we don't want to deplete the.
But that's what the law is all. Caller, that's what the law is all about now. That's what it is all about.
They're gonna have identification, or that anybody can go down and fish. That's the thing.
Oh, that part. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking about like you got people that come down. I see people coming from different countries here.
Okay.
They go down there.
If you were listening, you heard the minister. We had another caller, and the minister addressed that as well. So we're going to ask you to leave us there, caller. We're going to try to accommodate 2 more calls before the minister leaves. But the minister did address that issue about non-Caymanians and what requirements he would like to see in place for them to be able to take marine life. Next caller. Good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Yeah,
Good morning
to Honorable Mr. Patton as well.
Good morning,
how are
sir.
you doing this morning?
Not too bad. Hope you're well.
Okay, yeah. Listen, I'm going to give you my number, and hopefully that you can call me back as soon as possible. Is that okay?
Yes, sir. I might even have it already, but.
All right. 928-9673.
928-9673.
Yeah, it's vitally important that you call me as soon as possible, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Minister, getting to that time, I know that you've given up some of your time to the elections office this morning. Just want to say that one caller who called in about the fishermen and the consultation in relation to the regulations, they still have some concern to the fact that many of the local fishermen don't have necessary access to internet and stuff like that, and whether or not special attention should be paid to them, especially those who fish for to earn a living, because you need to get to them, and we also need to get to the consumers as well, because it's those people who go out there and purchase these things, especially from those persons who poach, that we need to get to as well.
Yeah, and I've seen, I had an email from Mr. Brown, Quincy, which indicated that they wanted an extra week. Certainly, this process is a process done through the National Conservation Council, but if I would be happy to ask them, to suggest to them that perhaps it could be extended for the rest of this week. Certainly, if they want to send in their comments by email, by text, or however they want to do it, that in my mind would be fine. If they want to send it to me directly, I'm happy to pass it on. But I would encourage them to consider extending it for the week as they have suggested. I don't have an issue with that, and I don't really think they have an issue with it.
Right.
They want to get feedback from the people.
Okay. Final comments, Minister?
Yeah, I will say it's always a pleasure to be here with you. There are loads of really positive things, exciting things that are going on, that are happening. The country's, I think, in a really good position. It's not perfect for everybody by any means, but we're a lot better off today than we were over the last 3 years ago, 4 years ago. So there's a lot of positive stuff going on, and I'm happy that we've been able to deliver an important thing like the National Conservation Law. We have a lot of the factors indicating improved economic performance. We have unemployment, which has dropped significantly. We have economic growth, which is exceeding 2%. So the country is in a much better position than it was, and things are going, I think, quite well. But as I said, we recognize that it's not perfect for everybody, and it's okay when you talk about unemployment being significantly reduced. It went from 10.5%, 4 or 5 years ago, down to now it's 5.7%. But that doesn't really mean that much to an individual who's unemployed. So we know that we have to continue to push, and that's why we're dealing with a lot of these programs, like the Ready to Work program, to try to break through some of these barriers, because we know that there are people who have certain barriers which are impeding their ability to either get jobs or remain in jobs successfully in the work environment. So we have to continue to address that, and I think those programs are succeeding. I think the government's overall policies and programs are succeeding. Otherwise, you wouldn't be having these steady declines in unemployment. So it's a work in progress. It will always be that way. We're never going to reach a point in this country where everything is perfect. We always have to work hard and strive to improve it. I think we have been doing that, and I think we have a lot to demonstrate that we've been very successful with it. We'll have a tremendously busy next session of our meeting of the Legislative Assembly. There's a lot of stuff that will have to be dealt with then.
And that'll be at the end of September?
That's going to be, I think it's early October.
Yeah.
So looking forward to getting in there and getting the important work done there. But I want to just, great way to start the week. Beautiful week, yes. Beautiful weekend, and beautiful week start so far. So I want to wish everybody a wonderful week and stay safe, and we'll continue to be proud of our country and to work hard.
And I know you've lost one of your constituents just recently too. Sudden news.
Yes. Mr. Shirley Ebanks passed away, and it was a huge shock over the weekend. And obviously, somebody that's personally fairly close to my family, and it was a very real tragedy. Somebody who would be immensely missed, and I want to extend condolences to his family. Very, very sad news. Yes. So thanks for
thank you very much
in respect to that, and have a wonderful day, everybody, and yourselves. We'll see you and everybody in Radio Cayman. Thank you.
Thanks, Minister. Thanks. Folks, I want to remind you that you're listening to For the Record. I'm your host, Dorrit Connor. When we return, we will have with us the officials from the Elections Office talking about elections and preparation for elections as well. Please stay tuned. For the Record, we'll be back shortly. Good morning. Welcome back to For the Record. It is my pleasure to have in the studio with me now the Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Wesley Howell, and his Deputy Supervisor, Ms. Sheena Glasgow. We're going to talk primarily about the door-to-door enumeration that will take place later this month. I won't give you the dates. I'll let my guests give you those dates as well. And of course, we will expect that some people will call in to have questions relating to elections, registration, and everything else. Folks, good morning. Welcome back to For the Record.
Good morning, Mr. Connor. Good morning to your listening audience. Thank you for the invite to come on this morning and talk about our latest developments for the Elections Office and what folks can expect over the next few weeks, yeah?
Ms. Sheena, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. O.C. Good morning, Susan, and good morning to Radio Cayman listeners. Thanks for having us this morning.
Okay. I'm going to hand the mic right over to you, Mr. Howell.
Again, I want to thank Sheena and her team for the diligent work that they've been doing, putting together all the logistics to go with our door-to-door registration. And I'll actually hand over to Sheena to talk more about that. And I can kind of feel, some of the general questions that folks may have about the wider process and those things.
Okay.
All right. Well, I won't mention the kittens that I had on Saturday, working with the team, getting things ready for this week. But we are launching the door-to-door verification exercise come this Saturday, the 27th of August. My, how time has flown. And that will continue through the end of September. Now, the idea of the canvassing is that we've got some 160 volunteers across the 3 islands who will be out knocking on every door during the weekends and during the evenings during the week. And we're asking residents to please work with them, accommodate the job that they're trying to do, because at the end of the day, this is all leading up towards the 2017 general elections. And as you're aware, we'll be voting under a different system, one man, one vote in single-member constituencies. And the Elections Office wants to ensure that every person who is eligible to vote has that opportunity to vote. So this door-to-door exercise is to facilitate voting come May 2017.
Okay.
All right. You want me to continue?
Continue on, yes.
I will do more.
If you want me to jump in, if I can also say that one of the other driving forces behind this door-to-door exercise is really coming out of the recommendations from the boundary commissioners and also from some of the candidates to be and some of the elected officials, and that they wanted to ensure, because the constituencies are smaller now, that they are as accurate as possible. Yes. And the best way that we know of to do that is to do what we used to do 20 years ago and go there door to door and knock on the doors and determine that folks are where they say they are, and that they have their names are up to date and their occupation and those sorts of things are up to date, so that our list is as accurate as it can be come polling day.
And I do know that you sort of held off on this because of the fact that there were so many families that may be away on vacation and everything else. So the 27th was pivotal.
Yeah, and the timing now works very well with schools being back in. Summer vacation is pretty much over. I think some of the private schools started this week. And so we wanted to make sure that as we're working as efficiently as possible. To continue on from what Mr. Howell was saying, when I speak about the door-to-door exercise, I say there are 3 key issues that the volunteers will be tackling while they're out. 3 key forms that they need to complete. One is, we call it the no change form. That's for people like us who are already on the register and perhaps no changes. We've been living the same house for the last 20 years, same residence, or neither our name, our occupation, nor our street address has changed. So there are no changes. We want to verify that the information that is on the register is correct and still valid. Then there are those persons who have a change of name, a change of occupation, and or a change of street address. So the volunteers will facilitate the update of that information because they'll be carrying around the Form 13, which is the change form for name, occupation, or street address. The third is, the third form is the Form 4, which you're familiar with, is about registering persons who are eligible to vote but have not yet registered to vote. And I'd like to stress that the volunteers going door to door will not be registering such persons, but they're facilitating the registration process. So they'll have the Form 4 with them that the person can fill out. They will ensure that they get copies of the relevant supporting documentation, and then all of that information, that documentation, is turned over to the registering officer, who, as you know, it's their job to ensure that persons who are eligible to vote get to vote. So the volunteers are not registering persons. They are facilitating the registration process so that they don't have to either find the registering officer in their district, or they don't have to go to the elections office to complete the process. So our volunteers are really about facilitating the process. I just want to ensure that the public understands that.
And those volunteers, some of them are experienced. I know I was walking across the parking lot on Friday, and I saw someone who I knew always works with the elections office. I said, "Are you working with the elections offices?" Yes. She said, "Yes, I'm helping. I'm actually going to be doing the door-to-door enumeration." And I know, for instance, that person has experience in it. And you've also elicited the assistance of the Economic and Statistics Office as well, as I believe.
Yes, definitely. As I say, the Economics and Statistics Office, they have the expertise. There is no need for us to reinvent the wheel. So they have really been guiding, helping us and guiding us through the process of how to do a door-to-door canvass. So some of the persons who normally work surveys for Economics and Statistics are volunteering. So they've just had to be brought up to speed on the election side of things. And we've also got volunteers who have worked for many years with the elections office, so they've been brought up to speed on how to do the canvassing side of things. And then we have some new persons as well who stepped in out of interest to assist in this exercise. So we have a pretty good cross-section of persons out there who will be knocking door to door.
Okay, one of our listeners, and you've spoken about this, but this will be an opportunity to elucidate on it as well, wanted to know if someone is shut in, unable to get out, and there are changes that need to be made in terms of their address and stuff like that. Will people come to them? And
yes.
The answer is
The short answer is yes. The longer answer is the intention is that volunteers will knock on every door and try to find where people are living, and ensure that we touch base with every person. For those who need to update either their name, their occupation, or their street address, they will have the Form 13 to facilitate getting that information in to the registering officer so that the register can be updated. But definitely yes.
What is being done now, for instance, for those young persons who are going to be going off to university, to college, who have not yet registered? Most of them some probably have gone already. Some will be going, and we know that has always been one of the challenges, getting the younger persons to register to vote.
Okay, I'll let Mr. Howell speak on more IT and social media side of responding.
I'm actually really pleased to say that our take up for young folks going off to school this year has actually been fairly good. I had a case just recently where a young lady registered in enough time for her to be able to get her voter's ID card because she doesn't drive, and wanted to ensure that she had her form of ID when she was away that was portable, so she didn't have to walk around with her passport. But she then also knows that she has the option now of voting via postal ballot when that comes out. So the forms that we have online are electronically fillable. They still need the additional documentation now, but as part of the training exercise, and I actually sort of sat in the back and only chipped in when asked to do so. It was brilliant to see the registering officers actually talking to the folks who were well versed in door-to-door canvassing on how to do the registration stuff. So you go through what documents are required, what the qualifications are, all that stuff. So when they leave, they should actually leave with a full package that the registering officers can then use to determine eligibility. But also on the other side, the folks who are used to the canvassing, saying, you know, when you go to a certain address, you need to ensure that you not only go to the first house that you find on a property. Some of these properties have additional buildings behind them that folks are in, and you need to ensure that folks are there, that you go there and make sure that that folks are given the opportunity to register. That said, part of the training exercise is, what do you do when you go to a house where somebody's left and gone off to school? And essentially what they do is gather that information from the family members, date of birth, all that stuff, and then try to solicit the rest of the documents. If the birth certificate's there, then we grab that and some of the other things. So yeah, we'll talk to the parents and siblings if we go to the house and their student is off to university already. So
now, when you spoke of documentation, will the volunteers be taking documentation from the person or recording that certain documentation has been seen, and what the details of those documentation, what they contain?
Well, Mr. Howell, with his IT background, came up with a IT solution.
Great.
And it will be, the idea is to take a photograph of it. We have partnered with, am I allowed to say which company? Digicel, to get phones which are to be used for a couple of reasons. You know, you're outdoor to door, there's going to be some information you need to touch base with someone else to get. So to allow phone calls to be made out in the field when that is necessary. The other aspect of it is that the phones will be used to take photographs of the supporting documentation at that point. Because remember, we said we want to facilitate the process and eliminate the need for the person to have to then go to the elections office and follow up. Now, if the person prefers to do that, we will work with that. However, I'm aware that Ms. Carey Nixon has said she's still got Form 4s to register new electors from 2 and 3 elections ago, because the person's just never did follow up with the supporting documentation. So the idea is to use the phones to take the photographs of the supporting documentation, and when that volunteer turns those forms into the registering officer, the supporting documentation and the forms of photographs are also going to be downloaded at the same time, so the registering officer has everything. Now, on that note, I would like to assure the public that the phones have been set up for limited use. Mr. Howell has ensured that they are set up for the purpose that we need and restricted accordingly. So the information will only be used in the electoral sense and kept within the elections office. Every volunteer has had to sign an oath of secrecy, and that oath has had to be signed in front of either a notary of the public or a JP, because we're holding them to the same standard that elections officials work when they're handling persons' personal and confidential information. So we wish to assure the public that the volunteers have signed this oath. Nobody is going to be sent out on the road unless they have signed this oath, which holds them to that standard to respect people's personal information and handle it and secure it only for the use by the elections office in the registration process.
And of course, for those persons who are providing that information, that's the information that you would have provided to a registering officer anyway. So it's just a matter of that person being the go-between to get that information to them.
And I mean, I can say we know that some of the candidates and their folks are already canvassing themselves because those applications come in to the registering officer sort of in a bundle where they've managed to copy the documents with the permission of the individuals. They've signed their Form 4s or their Form 13s, and those come in with all the necessary things. So we're not reinventing a wheel here. We're just trying to facilitate the most efficient use of time and money and get the information necessary at one time to complete that registration.
Okay. Anything that you're going to leave behind with the potential elector?
I like how you lead us into to very intelligent
I was thinking about
answers.
perks that maybe I'll get a little pen that says elections office or a ruler or a calculator or something.
So we're not doing the usual giveaways, but what we have put together, and I have to thank GIS for the work that they've done, making it look very appealing for the public, is a fact book sheet, a booklet of information about one person, one vote, what it means, how many candidates in one area, which candidates can run where, and those sorts of things. How do they vote? How many votes they have to cast? We also have on the inside of it, so it's 11 by 17, so there's a map on the inside that's 11 by 17, which is actually big enough that most folks can actually pick out their street on it. Okay. So you can actually see on that map where your single member electoral district is, where you fall within there. We list the registering officers on there, their telephone numbers, the elections office contact information, and then just general information about one person, one vote. So with that one thing, so we're actually doing fact gathering in terms of making sure the list is accurate, but also taking the opportunity now to start shifting gears a little bit into our voter education around the one person, one vote. And for those people who don't have the online access, don't quite know what the maps look like, you're going to get a map centered around your electoral district and where your boundaries are. And I think it's a brilliant way, because we're already at everybody's door anyway, to just leave that thing behind that has what we think is most of the information that they've been asking for them.
What about allocation of polling stations?
Polling stations, we have, I would say 17 out of the 19 polling stations done. There are 2 that we're still trying to figure out the best location. With your history in the elections office, there's always been a challenge to try and find those. And we have some new boundaries now that actually have no large government or church hall type building in them. So we're having to be creative. So we're going on the road over the next couple of weeks to square away those. All the normal ones that are school halls, and those we've already sort of written to those people and say, we're planning to use your venue, but there's a few.
Is it possible that you may go outside of your polling, your
electoral district?
You're right.
Yes.
To vote, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because,
absolutely. And we did a sort of belt and braces approach to that one. So we've made a recommendation that be put in law, that we have the ability to assign a polling station that's outside of an electoral district, and that be kosher, because we may run into a situation where you might be on the other side of a road, and that's where it is.
I believe we have a few callers online. Let's go to the phone lines. Caller, good morning. Welcome to For the Record.
Good morning to you, Mr. O.C. Good morning to Mr. Aston. Good morning to Mr. Howard. Always good to hear them both on there. I'm glad we're getting to the nitty-gritty and getting out there and talking to the people themselves, because this is a monumental change that we're going to break. Grand Cayman up into plus the 17 mini districts, and then we're going to do it to Cayman back 2, I believe, and we've had first in 185 years, I guess. Anyhow, what I'd like to ask, he could have applied to the Minister of Energy, but he's gone. The one thing about this, with the elections, a candidate running for office, we know that there are many Caymanians who hold U.S. citizenship by naturalization, not by birth, which is a different thing.
We know that they have to, as present, and I don't see why this is so, because I've said to Mr. Matfield already and others, why do you have to surrender your citizenship before the results of the election? Because if you are not, and you're a U.S. and Cayman citizen, if you're not elected, you have lost one of the most valuable citizenships. If you did, why not wait to see if you're elected, then you surrender it? Because the U.S. naturalization process says quite clearly, I shall not swear allegiance to a foreign potentate, which would be Her Majesty. So I don't see why you should give it up before you hear the results of the election. There's no reason why, if you don't give it up after you're elected, then you can't.
Well, some would argue that shows your commitment to the whole process and your commitment to your country by, even if you don't get elected, you give it up anyway. So,
but if you running, then you're saying that person is a half-hearted Caymanian. I don't buy that. I'm sorry, but the other thing is this. And I've mentioned it before, that the new passports say the property of the Crown. The Crown, and nothing mentioned about the British government, which the old passport says the property of Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom. I think Mr. Matthew doesn't seem to think it, and he's much, much more learned than I am, that it makes a difference. But I think that wording is significant.
You said the old ones say the property of
Majesty's government in the United Kingdom government. It's not the new one says this passport is the property of the Crown, nothing else, and can be withdrawn, not withdrawn, cancelled at any time. The other one says withdrawn. I think that leaving out government, I think it's significant because, as I've mentioned before, and you've heard me mention it, what happens if the British people hold a referendum to do away with the monarchy, and it's successful to do away with it? What happens then? Where are we? What are we? Do we belong like thousands and hundreds of thousands of acres that the monarchy owns, Her Majesty owns? Are we then her property and no more the government in England? I don't understand. Did we know about this change before? That's the one thing I'd like to ask you. Did we know about this change in the wording?
It's something that I will look into, do some research on it. And the question is whether or not crown, the word crown, is interchangeable with the phrase Her Majesty's government. I think our caller has left us. We're going to go to a commercial break. Folks, we're going to take a commercial break. When we come back, For the Record, we'll continue with the Supervisor of Elections, Mr. Wesley Howell, and his deputy, Ms. Sheena Glasgow. Please stay tuned. Good morning and welcome back to For the Record, where it is my pleasure to have in the studio with me this morning Mr. Wesley Howell, the Supervisor of Elections, and one of his deputies, Ms. Sheena Glasgow. Mr. Howell, I think you had some observations and a response to our last caller.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. Yes, in relation to the sort of exercise of renouncing citizenship once a person is elected. The Constitution is actually, I think, quite clear in that. Section 61 of the 2009 Constitution has, in subsection 2, for the purposes of subsection 1, which is all the qualifications criteria, a qualified citizen is a British Overseas Territory citizen by virtue of a connection with the Cayman Islands, who either at the date of his or her nomination for election possesses no other citizenship and is pursuing no claim other than citizenship for which he or she may be eligible. So that sort of deals with the timing of it. So as we were in Olympic fever, I can't run down the track as a U.S. Athlete, then win and strip off my jersey and said I just won, but I won for the Cayman Islands. The way that this is actually worded, from the time I'm nominated to represent my country, I have to declare at that point which country it is, and if I have more than one citizenship, that would be a non-qualification at that point.
Okay. Ms. Sheena, any more in relation to a house-to-house enumeration?
Yes. A couple of things. What will a volunteer look like? And I need to touch a little bit more on the dates. Our volunteers will have an elections office ID card that they'll be wearing, and they'll also be wearing some polo shirts with the logo of the elections office imprinted on them. The polo shirts are a kind of khaki-like color. We tried to stay away from white, but didn't go all the way to black this time. So, and both the polo shirt and the ID reflect the new elections office logo on them. So, and failing that, anybody has a question, give a shout to the elections office. And because I'm pretty sure we're going to have somebody working there late hours during all of this process. So someone will be there to answer questions. If there are any questions in terms of the oath, each volunteer will have a signed copy of their oath that if any resident wants to review that to ensure that the volunteer is going to be handling their personal and confidential information in a secure manner, they will be able to view that oath for themselves as well.
What if a volunteer goes to a residence, there is no one there? Will you leave some sort of note saying that I've been here and contact me,
We've been advised not to leave notes, because then sometimes people hide from you when you come back.
So you will actually return
Yes.
return to the location.
The volunteers are mandated by the contract that they sign. They have to return a total of 4 times before they can say, I have made every effort to attend, there's nobody here. And while they're mandated to return 4 times, the training has also stressed, don't go at the same time every day, because that's just crazy. So they're to return at different times. And push come to shove, they, speak to someone's neighbor who might be able to advise, that apartment, that house has been vacant for months, the people have moved away, or they're on an extended vacation, whatever kind of thing. But the canvassing, particularly for Grand Cayman, will run Saturday the 27th is our kickoff. The idea being that at any time during the day, Saturday and Sunday, now it's really up to the volunteer. I really shouldn't say any time during the day, because we don't expect people to come knocking on doors at 6 o'clock in the morning unless that the resident has asked them to come back, but reasonable hours during the day. And we've stressed no later than 8 o'clock at night, because you shouldn't really be knocking on anybody's door after 8. And then during the week, it will be, as some volunteers might have time during the day to knock on doors, but most of them, as they have daytime jobs, will be canvassing during the evening. Again, nothing past 8 o'clock at night. But so we start on the 27th of August and we continue through the end of September. We are starting for Grand Cayman. We're starting from the eastern districts and come in. So the focus is on ensuring we finish with East End, Northside, and Bodden Town. We will also start West Bay, and then Georgetown will be the last focus, because at that point then everybody comes in and focuses on Georgetown. We will take a break during October, because as we understand, Economics and Statistics will be out in the field doing their own survey. So we will resume come November and finish at that point anything that is still outstanding. And we estimate that the majority of Georgetown and possibly a little bit of West Bay, we will focus on finishing by during November. We do anticipate we should be able to start and complete East End, Northside, and Bodden Town, and parts of West Bay through the initial canvass, which is through the end of September. And as I said, then take a break for October, finish in November. For Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, their training is scheduled for the Saturday the 3rd, so anyone who has volunteered, please take note of the date if you haven't heard already, and you will be contacted with more information as to time. And their canvassing will just start the next week, which is Monday the 5th of September. We are anticipating that we should be able to finish Cayman Brac and Little Cayman by the end of September as well.
Okay. Speaking of the sister islands, we've always had this challenge of persons who are living in Grand Cayman because of their economic situation, the fact that they work here, but their primary residence is in one of the sister islands, and we constantly get people saying, this is where I live, and always has to be looked at on a case by case basis, and something at the end of the day that you may have the revising officer, who's a senior magistrate, make the decision if there are any doubts with it.
I understand that that's happened in the past, and
Yes.
and that was indeed how it was handled. So I foresee that if any questions come up along those lines again, that may very well be part of the process.
And to remind the public that is listening in that will be receiving folks, the individuals coming to your door aren't going to be making a determination as to where you're, qualified to be registered to be an elector. And in some cases, the registering officer won't even make that. That, like you said, it will be the magistrate, and will be binding at that point. So, but excellent question.
Okay.
What we've told the volunteers is simply take the information, because it's not, while you bring up an excellent example for Cayman Brac and Grand Cayman, we also have the same situation here on Grand Cayman, where we may very well have people who have what they consider two residences on Grand Cayman, and which is the primary one. ESO's standard has been, well, the one that you spend the most nights at is considered your primary resident. But volunteers have been told during training, if there are any questions of that nature that come up, simply take the information as they have it at that point and pass it on up the chain, meaning they pass it on to the registering officer. If they can't deal with it and make a determination, then again, it goes up to the next step, which would then be the magistrate.
Now, Mr. Howell, there are still those naysayers out there who feel that there isn't sufficient time to get all of this done to educate the public. It appears that the elections office is well on its way to having all of that done, having everything in place, including the issuance of new elector registration cards.
Absolutely. And I can say, I mean, in addition to what we're doing, the amount of questions that have been coming in to myself personally and in the office in general from candidates and potential candidates also indicates that they're getting geared up as well, because they're asking for things like the boundary maps in detail, the list of electors by boundary, and those sorts of things. So I think the education part will come. I remind folks that, we're doing the registration bit first, because that's the first deadline that hits us. So if you're not on the list, then game's over. You don't make the finals for the Olympics. It doesn't matter. Yep. So now that we ensure that people are on the list and they're qualified for the finals, then we can start that discussion about what the performance would be like, how to run that race, in terms of even the candidates, what this means for them, and then from the elector's perspective, that wording around how many persons can you vote for, where will candidates register if they're registered in your constituency? Will they also be registered in a different constituency? Can you vote for a candidate that's not registered in your constituency? So all those questions are what we will be answering when we leave the FACLET, the book sheet with the electors when we go door to door, and I know that conversation will continue on then when the candidates knock on the doors, and we'll also be changing our messaging once our registration period is coming off to a close, and switching gears more to that vote education. Simple things like leave your cell phone at home when you go to the polls, so that it's a faster process, and those sorts of logistical.
Or even in the car.
Yeah.
Because, some people mightn't be able to live without their phone if they leave it at home. So even in the car.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know, well, while we're on that subject, I know we even, in the past, you have had registering stations where people leave their telephone there, you put their name on it,
absolutely.
or whatever.
And dissecting the last election in 2013, our biggest bottleneck was actually at the
At
stations
the
that you left the
table,
phone,
yes.
right? So we're
Yes.
saying if you don't want to wait, leave your stuff someplace else. So when
Yeah.
you come in, you're all prepared to go and cast your vote. They'll very efficiently and expertly take that from you and go. And again, I have to give great congratulations to the folks that year after year, give themselves up to come and do this work. So easily 90% of the folks who we have working the polls are experienced poll clerks and presiding officers. Some of those have been promoted up, so we're bringing up some from the bottom to fill those positions. But again, these people know what they're doing. They could do it with their eyes closed. And I'm just thankful that we were able to build on work that you yourself and the other supervisors have used over the years and go forward and deliver free, fair, transparent elections.
Okay. For any final comments and instructions to the listening audience, the homeowners, those persons that will be contacted?
I would just reiterate and ask people to please work with the volunteers. Please don't suck your dogs on them. Please don't hide from them. We're not I say we, the elections office and the volunteers, we're not about invading people's privacy, but we are about facilitating the democratic process, given the historic election process that we will undertake in May 2017. We simply want to ensure that everyone who is eligible to vote, we facilitate them exercising that right to vote. As you know, the right to vote is one of the fundamental freedoms that each citizen has in any country where they have a right to vote. So let's use it as best we can and work with our volunteers to help them help the volunteers help you to vote come May 2017.
Right. And at the same time, while those volunteers will not be out there to convince people that they should register or that they should vote, like you said, they're there to help them to facilitate the process. So if someone comes to your house and says, and you say to them, I'm not interested in being registered, what will your volunteer do?
The training has stressed, respectfully encourage the person to reconsider, but if they are adamant about they do not wish to vote, thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you very much, sir, for your time. Have a good day, have a good evening, and depart. But one of the scenarios that we shared in training was to give the simple, shall we say, reality of the timeline. If you're a person who is not already registered to vote and decide you do not wish to vote, by the time, let's say, someone in your family, someone in your constituency, a good friend, decides to run and is nominated come March 29th, 2017, by then it's actually too late for you to change your mind and register to vote. So we're simply saying, use that analogy and that example to say, if that situation occurs, here is an opportunity for you to register to vote, and we simply want to invite you to reconsider. If you're adamant about not voting, we respect that is your decision, and thank you for your time.
And you can register and still not vote, but you at least want to make sure that you're inside the gate.
Exactly. You can register and not vote, but if you're not registered, you definitely can't vote.
Any final comments, Ms. Sheena?
Thank you for your time and for having us on and helping us spread this message. And I would simply say, if anyone has any questions, they can call the elections office, or Mr. Howells made sure that social media is up. If they prefer that means of getting their questions across, by all means. Please, we'd prefer the questions so that we can address them, rather than for there to be doubt or suspicion and we're not given an opportunity to clarify anything we need to clarify.
Okay. Mr. Howell?
No, I just want to, again, thank Sheena and the team for all the preparations. Looking forward to starting on the 27th and for an efficient and effective process encourage the public to support them as they go through this exercise, and at the end of it, we expect to have our most accurate list possible, having given everyone an opportunity that wants to register as efficiently as possible.
Okay, I'm glad that I checked my messages before we closed off, because of course, I have my phone on silent, so it's difficult for me to tell when messages are coming in, not wanting the sound to be transmitted over the mic. It says, good morning, OC, and your guests. What are the documents that are required to register? How would they be known of their authenticity? Would any changes of their immigration status be known to the relevant persons? Thank you.
And again, that's an excellent question. It goes back to one of the things that I'd like to do long term. Government-wide, it's a single source of truth for information, where we don't have to rely on folks to give us back copies of documents that we've given them as a government. We are capturing what we see. The registering officers are aware of their districts. The way that our election system around electors is designed is for a revised list to be published. That's a list that is intended to be scrutinized by the public, and for challenges to be made. So if I am not otherwise eligible to be on there, or I've lost my eligibility and should not be on the list, folks are free to challenge that. The registering officers themselves will challenge that. So that is the process that we have. One of these days we'll get to the point where you make an indication on which you want to be registered. We go behind the scenes and figure out from the government agencies whether or not all your documents or your statuses are up to speed. But to speak about what's necessary, if you're a Caymanian status holder, your status certificate, not the letter indicating that you've received it, but the certificate itself. If you're Caymanian by birth, then we need the documentation of your birth certificate, your parents' birth certificate.
And you're no longer required to be a British Overseas Territory citizen.
No,
and
not to be naturalized
yes.
in order to vote, as long as you have status and you're from a non-Commonwealth country. But the folks coming out are there. The forms themselves actually detail what information is required, and we're just hopeful that folks would have those on hand in order to be able to assist with the registration process as we do the door-to-door.
Okay. Covered everything?
Covered everything.
Well, I want to thank you all for being here, and we know for a fact that the listening audience have benefited immensely from the information that you passed out. And again, we want to encourage people to cooperate with the volunteers when they come out, and we know that the Cayman kind is there,
yes.
As well.
Yes.
And, the Cayman kind should extend not only to indigenous Caymanians, but also to those who have acquired Caymanian status by other means. So
Absolutely.
be nice to the volunteers out there. Folks, I want to thank you for allowing Radio Cayman, and by extension For the Record, into your homes, into your vehicles as you traverse the roads of the Cayman Islands, into your places of work, whether it be an office cubicle or whether or not you're working in the outdoors. I also want to thank our sponsors. For the Record was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance Insurance Company Limited. Tomorrow is secured. You can call them at 949-9744 or visit them at Alista Towers. Seaboard Marine with 35 shipping routes, including from Houston, New York, Miami, and Jamaica. Visit seaboardmarine.com for shipping schedules and more. Seaboard Marine, shipping shore to shore. And Fidelity Bank. For all your banking and pension needs, call or visit a Fidelity branch today. I also want to remind you that we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. There is always someone out there who's less fortunate than we are, and I ask you to extend a helping hand to them. If you can't do that, then I suggest you donate to a worthy charity. We always want to consider those who need, not necessarily those who want. I want to encourage you to have a great day. Continue to listen to your radio station, Radio Cayman. Join Sterling Dwayne Banks at 12 noon for a talk today. Stay safe. And we always ask the good Lord to bless these 3 beautiful Cayman Islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.